order this budget work session of the Centreville Town Council. We will first have a citizens forum. Citizens are requested to keep their comments to 3 minutes. I don't see any citizens, but is there anyone that wishes to speak? All right, awesome. All right, so in your packets, I know you all had a lot of paperwork. So the first one we're going to look at, and I apologize, me and Carolyn both printed the agenda. So the one with the second page that looks like this, that says IT modernization, just wanted to give you a summary of the cost for FY24 and then the enduring cost for 25, after, and an explanation on the benefits of the systems. So I will tell you the only new one that's not already in our budget, because we have Intercom, AccuFund, and Muni Billing already. We just wanted to give you an overview, is the CBiz, the central HR system that will house a lot of things that will help Crystal with employee tracking, performance reviews, reporting, many things. And she's on here if you wanted any more explanation than what she had put in the paper. But I just wanted to ensure that you got this week, so you have it when we're looking at the budget. Anybody have any questions?
And all 4 of those add up to 55.
Correct. The only new one is the CBiz, and the first year the difference is $1,200, which is the setup fee, and then the next year it's only $53.46 per year. So, town staff no longer interested in whatever the other $102,000 worth of software was, because we went right from like 157. Yeah. I was still just hoping for a little clarity on what those things were. Oh, but if the staff thinks they're not needed, then cool with me, I guess. Chip, that would be the. Oh.
We had the preview of the city one I really like, but we also had the preview of the extra suites of tools from Civic Plus. While they were interesting, while they would have been helpful, I can't say they were $25,000 worth of helpful. I mean, they would be good if we were a larger municipality. I would say invest in it, but for us, after seeing it and going through everything, as much as I like it from a performance perspective, I just can't see the value for the dollar.
And I just want to clarify, we are already enrolled in what's on the page here at these levels, so that this would be kind of a decision to step away from these softwares.
So other than CBiz, right? That's the only new one. Correct.
Yes.
The Civic Plus was removed, and the asset management. Which,
So these are not startup costs. These are
may come, into bringing that back. The startup was a bigger cost. The annual cost was like $30,000 less. The startup, because of all the data that would have to go in. It puts your roads in, your buildings, all your infrastructure, all your maintenance. You can do work. I mean, it was a big suite of things.
So of the 4 that are on this page, what drives the variability in this? I guess like the Intercom depends on the number of employees we have.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of a straight line product of.
And what Intercom is they purchased our Microsoft suite, so we come off of the county's intranet. We'll have our own Microsoft, and then a block of hours for support as needed from them.
And AccuFund, is it variable? Any variables that change it from year to year?
No, that would only change if I needed more users, which I don't see that being an issue. It's the cloud version now as opposed to the server base, which makes us be able to access it anywhere.
Right. How about the Muni Billing? Will it change?
No, it will be.
Accounts we have or something.
It would be based on the number of bills that we send. So if it's per resident. So if we had a sharp increase, it's like a small dollar something per resident would be added.
So it's in buckets like 0 to 5,000 or 0 to 1,000.
I'll get the breakdown from the sales guy just to make sure. I don't want to say that wrong, but okay. It's the new system that will allow the customers to have a portal. They can do we can do e-billing on it, send everything through email. You can e-pay with a check, a debit. It's supposed to be very customer friendly. Have charts so that you're able to see how your usage is between quarterly billing and stuff like that. So the bottom 3 are ones we signed contracts last year, but these are the costs for the year, so you could just see them. On Intercom, is it like a fixed per user cost? I ask because I would love to see
an email address that's like towncouncil@townofcentreville that then comes to all of us. So if I'm a citizen, I don't have to find and type every one of our names. I can
Right.
just email towncouncil@townofcentreville, and then that would blast to all 5 of our official email, or wherever we decide we want it
listserv,
sent.
right.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah, we can do, well, we can do that now if we needed to, but yeah, we can
Since
definitely.
we're
set that
migrating, it
up.
doesn't make sense to
Right,
change the role
right.
now.
because
Oh,
we
yeah.
have like a finance one that comes to all of
Yeah.
us, that, yeah, so, yeah, I'm sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
Really for that.
yeah.
I just think from we're trying to be more transparent and communicative, I think it would help.
Ashley, she was just saying, we could set up an email that was like towncouncil@townofcentreville.org, where all, would go to all 5 council instead of each having a specific, so if you'll chat with
Like in addition to our specific.
Yeah.
Just a quick question while we're talking about the migration and having our own Outlook and 365. Are we still going to mirror what has been up to this point, the county's email storage restrictions, where after so much time,
I think we
unless you've backed it up yourself, it's disappearing?
have a mic.
Do you happen to know?
Come on up.
So, as far as the email retention, I don't think it will be the 60 days, but we need to figure out what's going to work best for us, whether it be 6 months or a year. But each account has a terabyte, which we would never, like, I know, nobody would ever exceed that. So it's just, depending on what works best for us.
Email account?
Each email account gets a terabyte,
Amazing.
which
So
is
we can
amazing
pick-
for what we're paying. Like,
we
I
can
mean,
pick
it's
that
dirt
link.
A lot of
cheap.
slide decks.
So if we can, with Chip's help, put a pin in that to bring up in the near future, I think we definitely want to have a policy that's
Yeah.
similar to the counties. I think they have a good
Yeah.
time frame where
Just more than 60.
I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I think if we are going, because of PIA requests,
Yeah.
we've got to have some kind of policy that says this is how long we
exactly.
keep our
Yeah.
emails.
And we don't want to
or
keep it any
whatever.
longer than that, and then,
No, I mean, I think 60 days isn't long enough sometimes,
I have to agree.
but I think 6 months might be a good amount of time to retain the emails.
And we have the flexibility within this particular activity. that I
Absolutely,
would
yeah.
see. Great, thank you. Sorry, I know that's not pure budget.
And the only other thing behind it was a request for a summary of changes from the first week's meeting, so I put that in there just so you guys would have it to know what changed. I added a line
Okay, got it.
to each one. And so on tonight's budget, when we go into that, I've done the same thing. I've added a line for this budget and also a comment as to what was removed, why, to try to help with that. So that first packet was just kind of a summary of things requested from last week.
Awesome.
All right. So the next place we would start, unless you guys wanted to go back over last week's, we ended at the end of the general fund, which would start us on the enterprise fund. Unless you,
So we had a couple things that we didn't come to a consensus on, like fireworks, for example. You wanted to revisit. Are you ready to do that, or do we need to
Can we,
wait another week?
yes, I'm
Okay.
just about ready to pull the trigger on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
and I did merge the special events line in A92, so they're just one line for,
Okay.
The front 2 summary pages, just so you know, the bottom shows you where the budget is at this moment. The general, yes. The general fund is in the positive, 236,388 with the changes made from last week. And the enterprise fund is in the negative, 130,934. The only thing new on there, which Kip will go over tonight, is the RFP came in for the running of the power, or the treatment plant, and so that made an adjustment to what his budget, we had put in what we thought, but we didn't know until we got the number. The revenue, just an FYI, the proposed FY '24 amount, which is on page 3, 3.410 million, is based on the constant yield rate that President Klein requested last time, as opposed to the 53.5 that we did last year. And if you want to look at page 8, I can just kind of go over quickly, if you'd like, the changes from last week and the comments on the page, so you, just a refresher in case you had any questions. So the first change we made in A92 would be the removal of the admin assistant in the budget. So you'll see 4 lines on the front page with a number 1 next to them. They're all the same explanation, so I put a 1. And then on the next page, you'll see it tells you 1 is removal of the admin assistant from the budget. Let's see, the number 2 line is the software where we did the reduction, and the comment lets you know we removed Citywide, which was the asset management system, and the Civic Plus permitting and code enforcement. All right, page 10 was the police department. Again, there's a couple number 1s, all based on the removal of the extra officer that was requested in the budget. And that was the only changes in B10. B22, Goodwill Fire, do we have any new updates on, are we still?
Yeah, Council President Klein, were you able to get a hold of them?
Yeah, I was talking to Jeff Keel just this afternoon. They would like to formally request to be on the agenda for next week's budget workshop. Their president, whose name I've got, Raymond Aaron, would like to be on the agenda. So let's work with them and make that happen, and we'll get them in here.
Okay, I'm just flipping through real quick. I believe that was the only other changes made in the general fund as we went through the streets. The Parks Department, Main Street, we did make the one change. We took the farmer's market revenue expense line out. Carolyn talked to Carol, and she was gonna start, Carolyn, what'd she say about the farmer's market line?
Oh, she had me go ahead, and I had stated that it was requested that she add expenditures up to match the revenue she had in the budget. She said she actually was gonna remove that this year, because she's gonna have the farmer's market be the one who solicits that, and that money would go into their fund.
Okay.
And do. Yeah.
You know I love the farmer's market. I talk about it all the time. But I find it perplexing how sometimes we act like the farmer's market is a function of the town, and then other times we don't. And so I would love, separate of budget, to have Carol, let's get our arms around that.
Meaning totally step away, or?
Well, I think the opposite. But I don't understand when the farmer's market's ours and when it isn't. But it's because it's not consistent.
It's a reasonable request, yeah, to understand.
So I would just
Where the
love to,
bottom line
yeah,
is,
where,
yeah.
like, what's the involvement from a Main Street time perspective? What's any money investment if we make one? What's the process the farmer's market goes through, like other town events, if it's not a function of the town? I mean, there's no bigger fan of the farmer's market than me, but would just be curious, sort of.
Maybe Carol could do a.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have her on the agenda for the next regular council meeting, to come in and talk about some stuff upcoming, and, so I
I
can
won't be
ask
here, but
her.
I can just reach out to her about the
Yeah.
farmer's market. That's fine. Okay.
So just to be clear on that, Council Vice President Kaiser, we want to look at scenarios where it's a solid line to us and those where it appears to be a
Oh,
dotted
never to
line.
us. I just want to know, like,
You know
from
what
a
I
Main
mean?
Street perspective, I know she does a ton for the farmer's market. So where are we accounting for that in her time, or how we, like, how does it look now? How should it look? And then if it's not a town function, what can or should we do to support it? That's all.
And
Because I love it and want it to
yeah.
be successful.
And the reason I asked my question is I guess I would like that third question to be, and you sort of just said it, but I want to foot stomp it. What can we do to be even more helpful? If there was a magic wand and an unlimited budget, what would that look like? I think that would be nice to hear.
Yeah.
All right, page 18, the cemetery, we went over, no changes. Page 19 was watershed. We had went over and no changes. Page 20 is the enterprise enterprise fund revenue, these, the sewer and water increases you see on the lines are based on the 5% increase approved as an annual. And that was it for the enterprise budget. There wasn't a whole lot of changes, just based on the increase of the 5%. We didn't like put anything for new users or allocations unknown with growth where we will be at it. So I didn't want to put something in if I wasn't sure of it. And page 22, Kip, if you want to come up here and go over your sewer. You'll see there is, next to the salaries, there's a number 1. We had left the salaries in for the water sewer department until we had the RFP for the amount of the contract to run the plant. So now that we have that, we've removed it from the salary and increased the contract services line. So I put that note in there just so you knew what that was.
Excellent.
The total increase in FY23 to FY24 budget for sewer is $100,277.
So basically here, if you have any questions, however you want to do it, line by line or in general.
Do you, would you assess your RFP as a successful solicitation?
I would have liked to have seen more bidders. We had only one bidder show up. It was advertised well. It was also out on, forgive me, I can't remember the website, the E-Maryland
Emma?
thing. You know, I had personally sent out to 3 different contractors. 2 of them got back and said that they were sorry that they would not be putting in a bid for us. Only one contractor showed up for the pre-bid meeting, which was mandatory for placing a bid. It came out higher than what we were expecting, but given the way today's world is, not exactly surprising.
There's a possibility to adjust the scope of work or something that might bring in more competition?
I don't know that the scope of work would change it, because we've actually got it throttled back pretty good, to the point that like everything that we can do in-house maintenance wise and repair wise, we're still doing that. If something occurs, we have a list of our own contractors, and the contractor is given that, all the contact information and everything. They call us and see, can you guys get to it or not? And we'll tell them right then and there, we'll either be fixing it or please contact contractor X to take care of it for us. And there's reasonable communication between us and MES, who's operating it right now. MES is, yes, sir.
Yeah, Kip, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the normal contractors who might bid is in a lawsuit. And the others that have been in this business have reported the same issue we're having, a difficulty in keeping and hiring staff.
Very much so. That's part of it. It's a tough situation for everybody with water and wastewater. Getting and keeping, staff that are fully certified, or being able to get them certified. And it's not, with the contractors, the cost of that employee isn't the issue, because that's a pass-through cost. The problem is the people, they're just not there. So,
should we or can we consider keeping MES?
that's one thing, and I'll talk to this as best that I can. I tried to take this week off, so I know that.
Silly you.
Yeah. Yes, I know that staff was able to reach out to them. They did put a proposal together for us, but It's,
306,000?
309, so that's more than $100,000 over what they had originally told us.
Last
And-
year was 197,000 even, so that's a big, to add a full-time
that-
operator was their reasoning, but I thought that was,
Yeah, the one contractor that did put the bid in, they have found a person that they're gonna hire to take care of Centreville if they're awarded the contract. I've known this gentleman for a long time. He's retiring from another municipality. He is top notch. I mean, this gentleman is meticulous in his record keeping, his housekeeping, and everything. So, as far as I'm concerned, we couldn't ask for a better person that way. The folks that actually are the principals of that particular company, I've known them for many years also because they've been in this industry. They haven't, both of them haven't always been a contractor. One of them worked for another contractor at one point, has also been superintendent for other facilities. I think he still carries as a superintendent for some facilities too. The other gentleman worked in the industry, oh good God, I couldn't tell you how many years, longer than I have. And also worked for Maryland Rural Water for a good number of years as a circuit rider. So he as well is very knowledgeable about just about anything that comes down the road with this kind of work. So great.
So let me ask you about two dates then. A date that you'll want to recommend to award, I guess what I'd recommend to the council on the award, and then what do you foresee as a transition date?
The transition date, what we pointed at was July 1st, so that we keep it in the same budget year. The contractor that put the bid in said that was acceptable to them. They can wait that long. In the RFP, we put in there that it would take us 30 days to evaluate and to be able to give notice to proceed if possible.
Okay.
So my plan is to, when I get back in the office next week, is to evaluate both of them, talk with both MES and the contractor, and we'll go from there. And hopefully, I'm hoping that by our next council meeting that I have a recommendation for you from there.
I have a two-part question, and I think I asked this a year ago during the budget workshops. Where in this budget are the items for the continual process of going to digital metering? And I think the last time we were more than halfway there, or can you just speak to that quickly?
Sure. That's actually on the next budget that
Next
we'll look
budget.
at. The one you have in front of you right now is the
Just sewer.
sewer
That's right, sorry.
wastewater budget. The water meters themselves are actually in the next one in
page
C21.
20, oh wait, page 24 is the start of the water.
Sorry, yes, page 24, and it's under meter expense, which is like it's 4 lines down, I believe, there.
Yep.
And you'll see that's been bumped up significantly. What's happening right now, because of the age of Symphony Village and the age of Northbrook, those meters are at the end of their life, so they're dropping off a little faster than we had hoped.
Got it.
So we're running into issues when we think we're getting caught up, and then we read meters and they're dropping out. So we're getting more and more of them that need to be replaced. The other problem that's kind of holding us back a little bit, for the past year and a half, yeah, I'm gonna say year and a half, maybe a little more, the lag time on ordering meters have just gotten horrendous. When ARPA money went out, so many municipalities and government agencies across the country had this money and decided they were gonna jump on the bandwagon replacing meters. So we've gone to, what used to be, we could get 100 meters normally in a month's time without any problem. Now it's 12 months.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I've got meters, I believe it was 150 meters that I ordered in December that won't be here till this coming December.
Wow.
Now, that can always change, you know, there was a group of meters that I had ordered in, before that, I believe it was the end of October, that I was told those wouldn't be here until June, and for some reason, they showed up a month and a half ago. So that was a welcome surprise. But I keep trying to place the orders and make sure we can get them coming in time, but at this point, there doesn't seem to be any time where it's gonna go back to, you know, a short time frame.
And what I'm hearing loud and clear is really there is no aspirational state of we're gonna get to a point where we have 100% digital, and then it'll be by exception that there's new ones. There's a life cycle on these that's, what, 15, 20
That's
years?
kinda-
And then this is an ongoing battle.
Yeah, it's an ongoing battle. It would be different if we could get the meters more timely.
Yes, sir.
But with the lag in it like this, that doesn't help us a whole lot. So we'll see how things go. I had planned by the end of this fiscal year, we'd have been totally up and running with it, but with it being a year and a half and the meter orders have gone like this, there's no way I can catch it up.
Understood.
So-
And I apologize
And
for skipping
and
around.
it's- I apologize, I can't give a educated answer to you with so many.
No, what you said was
variables.
very helpful, Kip. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be, believe me, I want it done as soon as we can get it done.
You're here.
So,
Thank you.
So what lines in this budget are you most worried about?
Oh, Steve's got his hand up. I'm sorry, Council President Klein has
Yep.
his hand up.
It's okay, it's Zoom. So Kip, if I could just real quickly, you've got, looks like on C-24, there's a $278,000 increase to contract services. So does this contemplate also the drinking water being run by a contractor as well?
The contract services cover a whole gambit of things. That is part of it, because the operational contract would be split between C-24, which is the water budget, and the C-21, which is the sanitary sewer budget. That's a portion of it, but also that's included in there is our lab fees for the contract lab that we use. You know, those prices have gone up, not necessarily per sample or per test that's ran, but with new operators, everybody operates just a little bit different. And where when we were running it, we did a lot of process tests in-house, meaning our staff ran the process test. Not the only thing that we contracted out was mainly the reporting samples and tests. Where when you contract it out, they're not going to spend the time that we would have if it was our staff doing it. So they'll send samples out, which they would use to evaluate the performance of the plants and make adjustments from. So
Thank you for that. What is the difference between, if you could find the staff people that you needed to do this in-house, what is the difference between the price doing it in-house versus doing it with contractor like like we're talking about now, or like we've been doing? On an annual year basis, what's the difference between, if you could find a qualified staff, price difference doing it in-house versus with a contractor?
That's kind of a trick question because I have to come to you to get approval on how much we're allowed to spend for salaries. And if you're talking about fully certified people, you're going to have to pay for it. The only thing I can tell you,
But is this a bargain? Is this a bargain, right? I mean, or no?
no,
Like, let's say
there is-
if we're spending $500,000 on this, and it would cost us $200,000 to do it well in-house, I think certainly I'd be willing to fund it in-house, but is this a bargain?
no, it's not a bargain.
Okay.
And I can just give you an educated guess that to do it in-house, you're probably looking at every bit of $300,000 to $350,000 a year. If we were fully staffed and going back to operating it ourselves. Each operator has different rate structures and annual increasers and that type of thing. So I can't say that, oh, it would be like that, we'll save that much money for 10 years. I can tell you that in 2015, when we switched from MES operating and being the, in other words, the person in responsible charge or the superintendent doing all the reporting and that kind of stuff. If I remember correctly, in 2015, we saved $300,000 that year just by taking the plants over ourselves. If that number sticks in my mind pretty good from then. But the thing is, as you said, getting qualified staff. When we switched over, we had already been working. We had 2 guys that had been with the town for a long time that were fully qualified, fully certified, and we started hiring to fill more spaces in, and those people were entry-level personnel. No certifications. One of them may have had one of the 5 certifications that's required for Centreville's water and wastewater operations. But again, that was very hard. And if we could have kept getting fully certified people and everything, we wouldn't be in this predicament now. Right now, it's just the nature of the beast. The unemployment's down so low that people don't have to look for jobs like it was in the past. So, and this industry just happens to be one of the ones that the younger generations aren't filling in as the older ones are retiring. So it's a problem across the country. It's not just localized to Queen Anne's County, not even Maryland. It's a countrywide situation.
Any other questions on C-24 water? All right, the final page of the budget, page 26, is the farm with a total increase of $9,500. And I think that's mostly in repairs and maintenance based on the age KIP. Correct me if
Yes,
I'm wrong.
it's and some of it's the age of the equipment. The other situation that's really seemed to plague us is the amount of rain we get from year to year now. There are certain limitations. We can only spray when there's no ponding or puddling on the ground and stuff. But the thing is that when we can spray, we really have to spray and spend many hours doing it. This system is, we can't compare it to a normal irrigation system that a farmer would have. A farmer's going to put water there when the crops need it. We put water there because we need to get rid of it. So that's the extent of it.
And that number you think's enough for repairs and maintenance out at the farm?
We're
Or is
gonna
this
do our best,
conservative?
just looking at, you know, the way the costs have risen and stuff. We still do have 2 people on our staff that, are very well versed with the equipment and everything. Not saying they can do everything by any means. We do still have to call in, irrigation contractor to come work on it from time to time, and, meters and that type of thing. So, you know, if I had a crystal ball, I'd give you the world if I could.
I'd like to think if you had a crystal ball, you'd probably be doing something else with it. But, hey, if you wanted to use that power for the good of Centerville's water sewer, hey, there you go. Awesome.
All right, so that was the entire budget we went over in 3 work sessions. I'm sure there's questions. Is there any other departments you want to go back and look at? Are there any issues or concerns you have that you want to address?
On this prospective award that you're talking about doing, Kip, I'll bet you're gonna do this when you bring that recommendation to us, but we can see ahead of time, sort of in aggregate, what that contract cost is, and any associated town savings that it'll offset to help make it more palatable. I'm not asking you to cut the budget for that, I know you've already anticipated what would those savings be, and they're hard for me to pick out in here what they are, so
Yeah.
summarizing exactly what that contract, how line for line, and just how expensive it really is would be helpful.
Contracting it out, I don't feel is gonna be much of a savings in that aspect. But we'll do our best to put something together for
I'm
you.
just trying to understand it, I'm not trying to hack it, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand it.
I can tell you that one of the reasons MES's proposal that they put together for us increased that much is because they found out they need to add another operator to what they had originally planned on and the way it's working right now.
And you agree with that?
I don't know how they're doing it the way they are recently too. Our fully staffing would have been a superintendent and 4 operators, and that would have put, every week, one of the operators would be on call, and that would put them just 1 week out of the month. You know, that was one of the burnout situations when you get short-staffed, and at the end, we were down to 1 operator that was taking all the calls for a month and a half before MES started. And anybody that tells you, oh, we've got the greatest plant and you never get call-outs, that man doesn't know his plant very well, and somebody else is taking care of it for him, because there is always something.
We may have buttoned this up last time, but we talked a little bit about how, I think your perspective on stretching vehicles as very far as they can go may not always be what you have to do. So did we sort of button that up last time, or is it possible to dig into that a little bit as far as your fleet?
Okay,
If you wanted to look at the PowerPoint from the first week, the very back of it has the capital. I didn't know if that was something you wanted to.
well, I can tell you that DPW doesn't have any capital built into your budget this year, because we understand the money's not there, okay? So,
What do you need, though? I see a lot of stuff in FY '25 and not much in FY '24, you're right.
and
If
that's,
you could bring something forward, what would you bring forward?
right now, there's a Vector truck that's in there that'll actually replace 3 pieces of equipment. Our vacuum truck is dire need of being replaced.
Didn't you buy that last time I sat up here?
No, that truck's been here, it's a 1984, if I remember right, and it's been here since I've been here.
It's a street sweeper that we bought.
A street sweeper, yes, we
Not the
bought
vac
that.
truck. I know the vac truck was a lot of conversation, but
But what our intention is to not buy just a vacuum truck, to buy a Vector truck that we could do the soft excavation with it. It'll also be used for cleaning pump stations. It'll also be used for jetting the sewer lines out and that kind of stuff. So you'd replace a vacuum truck that we've got, you'd replace an aging Vactron that we have, which is trailer mounted, and you'd be replacing the sewer jetter that we have. All three of those have been here since I've been here. I know that, I think we forwarded at least the trucks to you and the years and the mileage that's on them. I do need to say, yes, council was very good to us. A couple of years ago, we replaced a lot of the smaller trucks. With the three that I was speaking of that we still do need to replace, two of them are not small pickups, but like 1-ton utility body type trucks, and this Vector truck. So
Okay, what would you say is a rough order of magnitude, just back of the envelope math on if we were to do those three things?
those three.
Or that one piece of equipment that replaces those three things?
That's right, you did say.
Oh,
like a
the one
Vector
piece
truck.
of equipment that replaces those three. The 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, when I called to get an updated price, it's $550,000 for that piece of equipment. So, and
I
I
was
can,
looking for it in here and didn't see it, but I'm probably not knowing where to look is the
yeah,
problem.
The vac truck, it's on the very first page, like 5 from the bottom.
Yep, that's one for FY '26.
that truck, I believe I started asking for that truck in 2016, and back then it was $300,000. So that tells you how much the prices have increased.
Yep.
Inflation is killing us.
Yeah. Well, supply demand too.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. That's been a very big issue with everything across the board. Yep.
And the budget, as you see it, has no capital at all. There are some requests in the capital for FY '24, but currently, as you see it, there is no capital request in the budget.
Are those available for lease in any way?
I would have to check on that. I know that we were looking at leased vehicles for like the smaller dump trucks and stuff. They don't have a lease program for specialized equipment like that. Or I'll put it this way, Enterprise that we
Yeah.
were working with, they didn't have a program for that kind of equipment. They were just mainly smaller dump trucks and pickups,
Pickups,
service trucks.
Police cars, yeah.
So,
And it wasn't cost advantageous when we sat down with, I mean, for what we are and our needs, I don't think it was cost advantageous to go lease versus buying, at least at that point.
Yeah, the lease program, once it goes through and it gets itself settled over a number of years, their replacement is every 5 years. We try to do a 10-year rotation on the dump trucks and the pickups and stuff like that, if we can get them to last that long, which we have. Some of them went way beyond the 10 years, but, yep.
That's not something that would have come along with that operating contract, is it?
No, there's no vehicles included in that. The operator has to supply their own vehicles for it, so.
Thank you, Kevin.
I don't know that I remember a specific answer, but I think I'd asked, what lines in that budget are you most worried about?
Yes, you did ask that.
In the enterprise budget, all of them. As far as, we've done our best to try and predict where this economy's going and how things are gonna play suit. You know, there was a time that inflation was at 8%. Sometime, there's some things that it kind of leveled off on. For the most part, there's at least, what did we do, 5%
Yeah,
across the board? And,
3.5 for some, but I think 5 for yours.
but 5 for this, just because the cost of chemicals,
Yeah.
same issue with that. I mean, the supply chain issue has hit that hard. I'm just glad we're not a large city that's having trouble getting chlorine gas to operate their plants, because, you know, they use ton cylinders and they were against the line where they may have had a inventory of them sitting there. They were using one and hoping that the next one, they could get the next one before they ran out. And that's again, a countrywide thing, so.
So, couple questions. One, if we had the resources, what would be like the main couple of capital things you would say, you know, that's crazy that we continue to kick down the road?
Without because I kind of pushed our 5-year budget to the side, working on this, so I'd feel better if I looked at that to
You wanna-
speak honestly about
You
it.
want the cap, did you want to see the one we have or no?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'd
all right.
rather take
You have
time to
yours.
look at it. Don't get me wrong, we have streets that need to be done, and it's a balancing act between that and equipment and those kind of things.
So on the equipment, like this $550,000 piece of equipment, that just blows my mind. Are there other local municipalities that own that?
Yep.
That we could use it from or have agreements with, or
When it gets to that big of a piece of
yeah,
equipment,
the liability's probably
I
too big.
don't know how many of them, how many are willing to do.
Yeah.
The reason that we purchase that is because when you need it, you need it. That's used for, you know, if we get an emergency call because a sewer main's backed up. If a pump station goes down, we have to start hauling it because the pumps aren't working. You need it right then. It doesn't make any difference what time, day or night, you know, 24/7. You know, as far as the Vector portion of it, you get a water leak and you have to get there and get started. That Vector portion of it you can use before Miss Utility gets there. To mark the lines, because that's considered soft excavation. You're not going to damage the utilities like you would if you just pulled the excavator up and started digging up. So,
Hey, Kip,
yes, sir.
off the top of your head, we talked about this briefly. When we call out a contractor for a leak, what does that cost us in terms of using their Vector when they come out to do that for us?
$350 an hour.
Okay.
And I think this has already been answered in practice and in previous conversations, but since you mentioned the 5-year plan, in theory, you will be in a position to help us help you have a sort of flat outlook for capital expenses and some sort of vehicle replacement plan. Is that
As far as being a flat outlook, it's
flatter, maybe is a better word, but
it-
what makes
yeah.
me nervous, obviously, is the idea that we know that the 3-in-1 solution, right, is this 550, and if there are other vehicles that you have been just maxing out, which I think, obviously, we're grateful for. I don't want you to think that I'm attacking you for
No,
that.
I
But
understand.
do we bequeath to future iterations of this council a moment in time where 3 or 4 things suddenly go at once and now it's an emergency? So
Well,
are we able to get on a glide path that looks different than that?
You may be able to, I mean, when we get looking into the 5-year plan, there's things like the light tower that we have. There's an air compressor that we use for jackhammer and other pneumatic tools. that's on there. Those are both very outdated. They've kind of been in capital ask for since 2014 probably, but
So those would be a perfect example of where, you know, and we've been able to do this on other items, having that history of this is an item that has literally sat in the want and need queue for more than a decade or whatever the time is. Can we finally make that a priority this year?
So I'll keep that in here, since everybody doesn't have access to this document right now, 95,000 for capital budget this year,
Yep.
7.8 million next year, and 26.6 million in FY '26. So we talk about smoothing, there's a lot of opportunity for smoothing.
And we knew there wasn't a lot of leftover this year, so I think we tried to, like, in the last year or so, you guys have been, we're grateful that you guys have been able to help us replace a lot of the things that were falling apart. So, you know, we tried this year, like, what's a necessary thing and what could wait another year. And so the three things Kip has in there is the fire hydrant replacement, which one, he wants to make an annual, so we're doing one a year, right? Is that right? Okay.
we were trying to do 2 a year. The prices went up to the point that where we used to be able to get 2 of them, $4,000 a piece. We did one this year and it was over $8,000. That's how much the price of the materials have gone up. But the one thing.
I would like to interject something. It's tough to kind of engage from Zoom, so I apologize if I'm interrupting someone. But we've talked a couple times, many times, and a few of us even opposed the acquisition of the Hummer at the police department. But a cursory review of cargurus.com shows that there's not a used Hummer H1 for sale in the country less than $40,000. And they go up pretty precipitously from there. $40,000 is the exception. $100,000 is the rule. I don't have a great sense of what that Hummer is worth. And the Public Works Department sort of transferred a vehicle. This is the way we've been sort of led to understand. I have no reason to believe otherwise. That the police department is in possession of an F-250 from the Public Works Department, which we've talked to the town manager about. I mean, you're probably looking at, you know, certainly, let's just say $50,000 worth of vehicles at the police department. I mean, is that I don't think are being utilized. Just anecdotally, when I drive by the police department, that black pickup is sitting on the lot. The town does not have any need to trailer anything as far as I know. That can't be trailered with the cruisers that we already have. We don't have a boat. And if the Public Works Department is in such dire need of vehicles, and I understand this is not a vac truck. I mean, I really think we need to look at the assets we have on hand to see if we can raise some capital to better invest in what we need, rather than sort of surplus assets that we think we might use sometime in the future. I'm not suggesting that we sell real property to buy cars or buy vehicles. But, you know, we've talked about many times about the real assets that are in the town's hands that might be better utilized by the private sector. So, you know, to me, this is something that deserves a little bit more of a kind of a full physical in terms of, you know, what do we really have on hand that we're underutilizing, not utilizing, that could have some real value to help solve this problem. And I'll speak just for me. I mean, I would love to see a real prioritization of short-term capital needs. You know, if we moved X number of dollars from the funds balance, as Councilmember Beecham has mentioned, you know, and I have mentioned before, I think we all agree, if we were to take some number from the funds balance and move it into the capital budget, what would you all prioritize on investing there? And my strong preference, just from a basic sort of macroeconomic sense, is that we don't use that money on vehicles, but rather on, you know, truly capital projects like roads and streets. But that's just my 2 cents on all that.
I like where your head's at, Council President Klein.
If I could speak to the issue with DPW giving the truck to the police department. I'm the one that made the call to give it to them. First place, that truck was in the Water and Wastewater Department. When we contracted out, that became a surplus truck. It's a pickup. It's not a heavier truck that, you know, with a dump body or anything like that, so it became a surplus truck. It's a 2016, which if we were able to stick with a 10-year replacement policy means if I kept it, it should be replaced in 2026. The thing is that you need to understand that, no, they don't have, other than a speed trailer, a trailer to move around. But every time that there's a function and the police have to go put barricades out, if there's a function that they have to put the safety fence out and that kind of stuff, in the past, what they would do, DPW would send a crew and a truck and help them with it. So this was a thing that worked best for both of us. They have no problem doing it themselves, and they have borrowed DPW vehicles in the past. And yes, you may go by and see it sitting there quite often, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get used. You might not see it when it's used. The police department in the past, since I've been here, gave old used vehicles to the Public Works, and that was my vehicle that I used. There was a Durango that I used that had a lot of miles on it when I got it, but the little traveling around that I did, it worked fine, other than it's not a pickup. You're limited by what you can put in it. After that one, they replaced the Chevy Trailblazer, and I got the Trailblazer until June before last, when I got this pickup, which is a whole lot easier to carry tools in. And I go out and help the crews, whether it's plowing snow, whether it's fixing a water leak, whether it's jetting a line or something. If I need to, I can hook that truck to the jetter or the Vactron or the Vactrons or other trailers to move equipment in and out. Couldn't do that with the two used vehicles that we had before. So I'm sorry I made that call. No, hindsight, no, we didn't bring it to council because I thought it was fair enough for, you know, as well as the police department's been to us. Plus, it took some of the burden off of our department and helped their department.
I would just love to see a policy, and this isn't on you at all, Kip, but a policy where if there are transfers of, you know, capital equipment from one area of the budget to another, there's got to be some transfer of assets too, in my opinion. I mean, if the police department need that truck and you don't need that truck, well then B10 ought to be buying it from wherever it came out of.
This came up with councils past when the police department was giving me the vehicles that weren't used anymore. And it was decided that no, we're all working for the town of Centreville.
I mean, I think if we were talking about a high mileage vehicle that would otherwise be junk, I could maybe appreciate that. Like if it was otherwise just useless or worthless. But we're talking about a truck that's got to be worth a little bit of money. I mean, I don't know, like the council president does. I don't know anything about cars, but I got to believe it's worth a couple bucks. That, I don't know. I mean, they're different lines of the budget. Yes, it's one town. Yes, we're all working for the good of the same residents. But I just would like to see there be some process in place where if things are moving out of one area to another, and again, that's not on you. I mean, that's the town manager sets, you know, works on setting those sorts of policies, and I've shared that feedback with him about how I feel about this situation. But when we're hearing you say you've got rusted out vehicles and vehicles with challenges, whatever we could sell that truck for might go a long way.
No, it's not going to go a long way. That's what I tried to explain. This is a pickup truck. The vehicles we were replacing that were rusted out and stuff, 3 times the cost of what that pickup is.
Sure, but you have to start somewhere. I mean, so just for me, if the reason for Centreville Police Department to own that truck is to move road barriers occasionally. That feels like not that worth it to me. And nobody
So
loves an
you wanted
event in the street in Centreville more than I do. I mean, trust me.
So you wanted to go back on the Public Works to do
Or
that
sell
on
it.
top of the, no, I mean, when it comes time to move stuff like that, that's just an example, and I can't speak to everything that they use it for, but I hear you and I understand.
No, I appreciate your feedback there, Kip. I trust your judgment for sure.
If I may, what I'm hearing from Council Vice President Kaiser is you can't use a pickup to replace a larger vehicle, but it could defray the cost. And I do agree on the policy. It's something I've added to my notes. To Council President Klein's, talking about the Hummer, my conversations with the police department is because of the nature of how that vehicle was acquired and the nature of the vehicle itself being military surplus, there are restrictions on how we get rid of that. I won't say why. Chief of Police is not here tonight. I've been through that, but he can't be with us this evening. But he could address that further, that there are restrictions on how we get rid of that vehicle. And my sense is right now is because of the economy and things of that nature that not a lot of municipalities are looking for a Humvee. That particular Humvee is not up armored. It can help you in a snowstorm, but other than that, in my experience, it's a useless vehicle. But we can look into accessing that and perhaps getting some funding for it.
All right, so at the beginning of the budget packet, I just had a couple, like, single documents after the agenda. So the first one is an ARPA update. I just wanted you guys to be able to see where we are. Kind of looks like this.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere. I'll find it again.
Okay. I just wanted you to see what total funds we have received, what we've spent in FY '22 so far in FY '23, what we have encumbered, and what we have remaining to
What sheet are we on?
Oh, it's the other packet I have with the agenda on front, since we both printed the agenda.
This
Yes.
one?
Yes, sorry. So
The other
total
one?
funds received over the two tranches of money was 4,887,057.87. In FY '22, we spent 604,856, which was mostly project management costs and the Whedon Street fixes. In FY '23, including project management, we've spent 109,319 to date, and most of that was project management and sewer collection system repairs. In total, we have encumbered $3,417,120.28, which you can see the list at the bottom breaks down what is encumbered out of that funds. And then you see a line where, because we have it in the ICS program, we're earning interest, and to date, we've earned $113,562.57, which is allowable for us. We did check in the beginning with ARPA just to ensure that we were allowed to earn interest on the money and if the interest was ours. So that's the extra funds sitting in the bank account in the ARPA account itself, which gives us a remaining balance to encumber before December 2024 of $869,325. And then at the bottom, I just put what the current balance is in the bank account, so you had an idea what was in there.
So the encumbrances.
Karen,
none
what
of
is
those
the,
are on capital
what is the
budget, right?
encumbrance from Pop Taylor Park for?
Kip, is that the water main replacement? Water and sewer. Just water.
Just water?
Water main replacement, Council President Klein.
Okay, so it's not the
So
park.
weird, because I'm.
Because when I read Pop Taylor Park 2, I was thinking, that's like the size of my driveway. So what are we spending 36 grand on?
I was wondering the same thing.
It was part of that income.
I'm sorry, it's listed as Pop Taylor Park.
Okay.
It's that area, the water
Perfect.
line that serves all those houses in that little area around the park.
Okay.
When we did the Liberty and Commerce project, we stubbed out a 6-inch line and tied into the 1.5-inch line that feeds all those houses. So this is to replace that 1.5-inch line and install 2 fire hydrants in there. We're working on it. It's just, we haven't got that far with it yet. We've got the material materials and stuff listed so we can start pricing that, make sure we can stay in the budget with it.
Does your vac truck qualify for ARPA funding?
I'll have to look into that, because where they opened it up to the standard not the requirements of it has to be broadband or water and sewer, as long as you're under 10 million, you have that standard allowance, so I can actually,
I would think it would,
yeah.
based on what I know about ARPA.
I mean,
would
we
think it
use
would.
the street, yeah,
And
I can.
You got spray irrigation improvements in there, you'd think the vac truck would work too, but.
It absolutely could.
to clarify a few things on that, the sewer collection system repairs at the 350, and then right below it is the I&I study at 150. We had budgeted both of those items in 22
Yeah. it's been-
originally.
yeah.
Those kind of play hand in hand together, because the 150 was the study itself and any other work that needed to be done to get all the information together for it. The 350 was just a rough estimate. We actually thought we were gonna have to put a small pump station in to eliminate some of the problems, which to the benefit of the I&I study, we found out that's not the direction we have to go, but the direction we have to go is still going to eat that 350 up. So, of course, the engineer is working on its design for the expansion of the holding pond, and the spray irrigation money improvements is something that we want to build into the pond to be able and maybe take advantage of evaporation. So didn't make a lot of sense to put some equipment in the current pond that we have when we know we have to enlarge it, regardless of what you do with the wastewater plant. The time to do it is after you enlarge it, so we don't have to take it all out and may be obsolete, so.
We did, Council President Klein.
Oh.
Some of those, I didn't know, we get a bad connection.
Okay. All right, behind that page would be the FY24 allocation of costs. This is the transfer from the general fund to the enterprise fund based on those folks that get paid out of the general fund, the enterprise fund reimburses. I always like to just give you a spreadsheet. We're currently highlighted in yellow at 25% in the budget, and I give you each 5% increment up to 50% for your choosing of where you want that. Currently, what's in the budget in front of you is 25%. We probably are more like 45% in how it works out if you put it all together. But we've usually had to reduce this substantially to help the enterprise fund, because it's always deep in the negative sometimes. So right now, we're currently at 25%, and that would be on your choosing to change or adjust or leave as is currently. The page after that should be the final page before the budget. I just wanted you to see the 5% increase in water and sewer rates. So what the first column you see is what the current rates are now. The next column you see is what will take effect July 1st, and that's the 5% increase for the year. So I just wanted you to at least be able to see what the rates were, what the minimums were. And then as far as budget goes, I have nothing else for you. I don't know if you want to go over any of the other departments. Did you have questions on any of the items in the other lines? Did you want to look more into capital? Did you want us to have more of a priority list for you guys next week, so you could at least have that idea of if there was more funds, how he would want to, because I could work with Kip on that.
I'd love to see that.
And to the extent that it's possible, adding a column that just gives some context. This is something that's been in front of the
How
council
long?
for 15 years.
Yeah,
and we've
yeah,
never
and
been
we
able to
have
do
that
it.
on the other, I have my own sheet, but I try to do one a little cleaner so it's easier to read.
But even just hearing Kip say he's been checking prices on that piece of equipment for 7 years,
Yeah.
like, that's helpful to know.
Yes.
Any current changes you want adjusted in the budget as you currently see it? Anything adjust-wise? I want to make sure you guys have everything. Currently, where we sit, general funds has 236,000 taking in more revenue than they are expensive. The enterprise fund will take in 130,000 less in revenue than the expenses are forecasted out.
So,
And that's primarily due to putting the proposed award for services in there.
Yeah. They were much closer to the balance side until we had to
Last
add,
week, yeah.
Because we had only I'd put in 280,000 thinking, okay, it was 190 last year, even accounting for inflation, I think we'll be good at 280, and I was absolutely wrong. So, the big adjustment there is that.
so the total, if you were the net to consider them both as one, is what?
130.
Like 100?
Yeah, 105.
But you can't do that
Right.
unless you change that percent allocation.
Yeah, yeah, which you absolutely could, and we've done it some years just to, every 5% costs about, difference between 109,000. So every 5% you would reduce it, would give, make the general fund be in the positive but less, and it would help the enterprise fund.
I mean, ultimately, since the overage in one side's going to the funds balance and the deficit on the other is coming from the funds balance, it sort of is all one number.
Well, they each have their own fund balance. They each have their own balance sheet.
And, within the system, we have due to and due froms, which essentially are in the background allowing the transfer between, but, the
The
enterprise.
majority of our debt is on the enterprise fund side as well.
Right. Next week, we'll make sure we bring a capital priority list. Maybe we could look at some of the things that needed based on what's left in the general fund if you wanted. I'll look into the ARPA Vactron. My assumption would be yes, based on the questions we've asked and I don't want to say as loose as it's become, but it's a lot easier to get a lot more things than in the beginning. So I'll make sure we have that. Did you want me to print you a clean budget? What we have today would be the same thing I'd print you next week unless you have changes in the meantime, but
Next week is our last scheduled budget workshop,
yes.
and we'll have everybody in one room, I hope, for that.
Yeah.
I mean, barring personal problems that you can't avoid.
Absolutely. As far as I know, we're all here next
I'm
week.
here.
Oh, it's the
next one.
the
that I'm not.
regular meeting that you
Yeah,
won't
the
be
next two regular meetings,
Yeah.
actually.
So that way, if you wanted to discuss any of
It'd
the
be a
other,
good meeting to sort of,
just kind of recap
What are
maybe
some of
if
these
there's any,
areas?
yeah, absolutely. So I won't print another budget, but I'll just make sure we have a priority for the capital, and I'll find out the ARPA information. And that's all I have for tonight, unless there's anything you guys
No, does
right
anyone have
before the
anything?
meeting.
All right, so we have another citizens forum, if there are any citizens who want to speak. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to.
Bruce, is it the same Zoom link to get back in here at 7? All right, perfect. Thank you. I'm gonna log out and I'll log back in.